Hey guys, welcome back. This is week 51 Project Life. I'm doing something a little bit different this week. I have got my photos and I've also printed out a bunch of digitals from the January release at Citrus Twist. And before we get started, I just want to show you a quick little tutorial about how I altered some of these digital files to fit in my Project Life spread. So I just thought I would pop in here quickly into Photoshop and show you how I altered this 3x4 card from this actual Traveler's Notebook size page. So this is one of the January Traveler's Notebook Basics from Citrus Twist. You can see it is 4¼ by 8¼ high, and what I want is a 3x4 card. So the simplest thing you can do is grab your crop tool, put in 3x4 and crop your card. You can see if I do that though, I'm gonna miss half of the design of this card because there's a little sentiment on the bottom and I really want to include that too. So what I'm not gonna do is crop this, but while I've got the crop tool up, I am gonna go ahead and drag down a ruler guide to where that crop box would actually crop this card. And then I can go ahead and just hit my arrow tool and I'm gonna tell it not to crop. I don't want to crop it just yet. We will in 1 second. Then I'm going to grab my marquee tool and I'm just going to take a little portion of the bottom here. So I'm going to take one of those lines plus the sentiment. Then I'm going to use my arrow tool again, and when I move this box up, it is going to take the sentiment with it. So I want to sit that above this line, but I want these lines to be even. I don't, if I move this to where I want it, it's going to have either like one big line or a little line. So the easiest way to do that is I'm just going to move this off to the side so I can see where those lines are. And then I'm going to line up the lines, put it back across, deselect it, and I've got those even lines. I've got my sentiment, it's above that crop line, and then I can go back to my crop tool, crop this at 3x4. And that is my little 3x4 card from that Traveler's Notebook page. So obviously this works for any sort of size or shape. What I will say is when you're cropping something to be another size, it is always preferable to go smaller rather than larger. When you try to crop something larger than what it is, it can end up looking a little blurry, a little rasterized. It's not a good look. This is again another Traveler's Notebook page, so it's 4¼ by 8¼ I want to crop it by 4 and 6, and so that will still work because I'm cropping it this way. It's not bigger, it is still smaller. I'm just going to move my crop until the pattern looks a little bit even, and now I have a 4x6 card to work with. And the same I'm going to do with this one, except all I want to do is go 3x4. And this time I'm not cropping at the top or the bottom. I'm going to crop it so that my little element here, this hello, is sitting on these grid marks. So the grid marks on the crop tool are very handy. I always make sure it's on a rule of thirds up here so that I can do things like this. I can make sure that when I'm cropping it, it's sitting on the first third mark. It's just, I find it more visually pleasing. If you have it sort of here, it looks a little bit off-centered, unless you want to try and make it centered. I always love it on either the top third or the bottom third, but you can see this doesn't quite work because of the cropping. So I'm going to crop that on the first third mark, just eyeballing it, but round about there. And I've got another 3x4 card. Now all I have to do is go ahead and print all of these. And so here are my printed journaling cards. Obviously, I kind of knew how this spread was going to come together before I printed out the cards. I did have one little thing where I was going to use this hello card, and I didn't think it would work necessarily next to my photo, which also says hello on it. So in the end, I kind of printed out another photo and another journaling card, that yellow one there. That is an actual 3x4 card, so all I had to do was print it, and then I knew basically how my spread was going to come together. Now the other thing that I did was use my silhouette and print and cut a bunch of these little digital elements to use as embellishments. And I'm also going to keep things a little bit simple this week and not try and overdo things. So I definitely am not going to use all of those elements. You can see the few that I've actually placed onto the spread here, but I did want to print all of them and cut them while I had it there. I didn't want to have to open all the files and cut those out again. So I've got a little plate of extras that I'll be able to use on some other project. Now this first 4x6 photo, I am just going to do a little bit of stamping on here. This is from the 6x8 Get Messy stamp set, still one of my favorites. I'm going to use it for a completely non-crafty purpose though. I'm adding a couple of sentiments. I'm going to stack them together so that they make one sort of title. It says, "And then this happened." A little bit hard to tell on my photo, but completely foggy day. We woke up one day, beautiful sunny hot day, and within 10 minutes the sea fog had rolled in. So I definitely took a photo, despite the fact that fog just does not read well in photos. It kind of just looks like a blurry black and white photo. So what I did was add a little bit of journaling with my typewriter. My typewriter doesn't love photo paper, and so the line widths are a little bit messy. In fact, actually I say that, but my typewriter is just an old vintage typewriter, and it's a little bit temperamental because I did some typing on this printed journal card too, and it didn't love that either. So I'm going to add a few more words onto this spread than I have in the last couple of weeks, just because I think there's been a little bit of a rush to get this album finished, and today, because I had these digital elements, I had a little bit more time. So I ran that card through my typewriter as well, and then added just 2 of the little die cuts down the bottom. That fresh one was very small, so I did use a little bit of smart glue from scrapbook.com rather than my tape runner, and it worked a treat. This card, I'm totally changing my mind about which digital element to use. I had a couple that I was debating about, and then I happened to see this sort of semicircle one, and I just thought it worked much nicer. Kind of this really centered element on the card, so I added that at the top and then added my photo in underneath it, and that's really all I'm going to add to it. Now I took that altered 3x4 card that was the Traveler's Notebook sized page and again ran that through my typewriter. I could definitely have added the journaling to that in Photoshop before I printed it out, but I do kind of like that messy typed look from my typewriter. I do have a Wear Memory Keeper's typecast ribbon in it, and it has that magenta color on it, so I do like typing in pink as well. Now I added the beautiful Chaos little die cut onto my photo grid. That was, instead of printing out all of those photos and having hundreds of spreads of Jack's visit, I just made a photo grid with some of the photos. I'm sure the rest of them will get used elsewhere, and so this was just a really simple way of having all of them on my page like that. So I added the die cut. I just flipped over a couple of those other little die cuts and added them underneath like a drop shadow, and the white just kind of helps them stick off the actual photo grid, which is very busy. Now the last 3x4 photo with my hello, I just added a little stamp onto there directly onto my photo paper. I always print on Canon Photo Glossy 2 paper, and so I can just stamp really easily on there with my Memento Tuxedo black ink. And that was all I'm going to add to that one. So I've moved on to my title card. And when I had that Get Messy stamp set sitting there, I noticed that there was this kind of like little gritty stamp on there that says documented. And actually I thought it would be the perfect landing place for a title for my title card. Again, keeping things simple. So I just stamped that so that it runs off the edge of my 4x6 digital card here. And then I'm going to add my little title with these very thin, very pretty pink puffy stickers. Now these stickers, this is a digital card, I've printed it, so I have zero chance of being able to pull these off if I get them in the wrong place, so I'm being very gentle to place them in the right place before I actually go ahead and stick those down. That's just one thing to note if you are printing digitals at home. There's no sort of slick surface, so you do have to be really careful if you want to pull things off again. Now the little sort of space on the left of that grid, I didn't really know what to put in there. I played around with a couple of die cuts, but they're all a little bit too big. So I am going to add just one tiny little chipboard onto this page, this little blue star. It's not exactly the same kind of teal that's on the rest of the page, but I think it just adds a little bit of contrast to the warmer yellow and pink of the title card and kind of pulls in some of those cooler tones that I've used throughout the spread. And that's it. I do love digitals. They make things shockingly easy, especially if you're keeping things simple like I am. Do give it a try. I will link all of these things to the Citrus Twist store down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.